The Bible says nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. It doesn't say nothing except for sin. It says nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. So there is no separation from God. When you look at that image that we were taught as children, right?
Yeah. No,
where
I
there's a
know, the
chasm between you and God,
between, yeah.
that doesn't exist. Maybe there's a chasm, but you're on the same side as Jesus.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Whiskey and the Writings. I'm your host, Joe Oliver, and today we're talking about atonement theory and the role that sin plays in our understanding of what atonement is. I'm so glad that you've joined us. This is one of our episodes where I do an interview, and I'm lucky enough to have an in-person interview versus a online interview, and it's with someone who is a dear, dear friend of mine, Andrew Miller. As you know, in these interview series, I just like to talk to people about theology, and Andrew is one of those people that I've been talking theology with for a very long time. He and his wife Amber are dear, dear friends of ours, and they're just the kind of people where you can discuss the different things that we think about when it comes to faith. They're the kinds of people that wonder and live in the curiosity and the belief that God is much bigger than what we can figure out. And I love that and I appreciate about them. And today we're going to be talking about a subject, atonement theory. Now this, for some people, can be a very emotionally charged conversation because we like to live in certainty. We like to live in these realities of, I know what the answer is. And atonement theory is one of those things that's been discussed since the beginning of Christianity. And there are different ways to think about the atoning work of what Jesus did. And today what we're going to talk about are some of those different ideas. We're going to talk a lot about how sin plays a role in our understanding of atonement theory. And so my encouragement for you is this. There are going to be things that we'll say that you'll probably disagree with. And that's okay. My hope is that you'll sit in it long enough to consider, to think, and if anything, maybe you'll dive in deeper to try to understand what we're talking about. And it may reaffirm what you already believe, and that's okay too. Or it may actually challenge you to think bigger about the things that maybe you've taken for granted over the course of your walk. And so, yes, this is a fun conversation, a lot of laughing that takes place. And yes, some of the things that we're going to talk about, you've probably never heard before, and it may sound jarring to you. I just want to invite you to pour your glass of whiskey, sit back, enjoy, sip, consider, write down notes, and maybe even leave a few comments if you'd like. Thank you, Andrew, for taking the time to sit with me in this interview. I am so stoked for everyone to get to meet Andrew and to be a part of this conversation. Today, we're drinking the Willett bourbon, and I'm going to explain in the episode why we're drinking this today. So, without further ado, this is the interview with Andrew Miller as we talk about atonement theory. Cheers. Okay.
Totally.
So the reason why I picked
put my notes there.
That's fine. The reason why I picked this is our Willamette.
Mm-hmm.
And when Jane and I were in the liquor store and we found this bottle, we fell in love with it. And it's actually a really good whiskey. So that was the risk I took in buying it because I was like, I bought it for the bottle.
Right.
And not the actual
Didn't
whiskey.
know it was
I had
actually
no
gonna be
idea.
good.
But I was like, the bottle's really rad.
Okay.
And it's unique, it's different, it's packaged in a way that you wouldn't expect, but the flavor's really good. And I just think of you.
Oh.
You are so good, and you have such a deep, thoughtful mind and such a big heart, and your package is so unique. There's just no one like you.
Aww.
And so I
sweet.
thought, out of all the whiskeys I could drink, having you on this show, one of my closest friends, is something that I think embodies you. Is just a uniqueness, one of a kind, and the inside is just as special as the outside. So that's what we're drinking today, Willamette. I'm going to pour a little bit for you, and.
Ooh, baby.
There you go.
Look at that deliciousness
in
coming
there. And you've got
Oh, yeah, it smells
You've
good.
got some ice in there to cut it. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to drop this down just so give us more room, but we can always get more if you want to refill through the conversation. And hey, thanks for being on the show.
Thanks, man.
All right.
Oh,
It is good.
that's good.
That's real good.
Ooh, that's up there on the list of good ones. Ooh, I have a bourbon tasting with Michael Cox.
Ah, that's right. So
I might bring that,
okay, yeah, you should. It's really good.
but it's expensive.
Yeah, it's about an $80 bottle.
That's
so,
all
but it is really good. Okay, so yeah, Michael Cox. Yeah, he comments all the time on the videos.
Yeah,
we love
Michael.
I love you, Michael. And we're looking at the lens, just so you
Okay.
know. We love Mike and Lindsay tons, and I got to get Lindsay on the show too.
Oh, yes.
she's already
Yeah.
committed to be on. We just haven't worked it out.
Oh yeah,
yet.
we were talking the other day. Yeah.
Yeah,
She's
she's brilliant too. They're both brilliant, but at any rate, okay, Andrew, this is a long time coming.
I know.
We have had over the years so many conversations,
So many.
all over the spectrum, and
It's an understatement.
I know we go back in the intro. I shared a little bit about our history, but do you remember the first time we met?
Yeah, my brother invited me to go to your church back when gathering was over by the water tower, and he was like, "I guarantee you're gonna love it. You're gonna love Joe," and he didn't disappoint. We met and we had coffee like within the week, and it was just like, oh man,
Yeah,
so much fun stuff to talk about from day one.
we both have the ADHD. We both
Just a little bit.
love the Bible. We both can't sit still for more than 5 minutes, which makes something like this very. We have to have a topic like what we're talking about to get us to sit still this long.
It's got to be a strong one, yeah.
But no, I remember you and Amber walking into the gathering for the first time with Mike and Roxanne. Your brother was there, and not everybody understands kind of like the pressure of when you're a pastor, you've got a small church, and new people walk in. It's really hard not to like start sweating and like, oh my gosh, we gotta be cool. Everybody be cool, be cool, be cool. Like you look for the weird person in your church to not be weird that day.
Yeah.
You like all the things. But the really cool thing about all of that was that through all of that journey, how we have still remained close has just been a blessing to me.
It's been fantastic.
I love it. And just in your own words, because in the intro I talked a little bit about your ministry.
Yep.
I want to make sure we catch that at the front end,
Yeah.
so that because people don't listen to all the interview, and guarantee you, we'll probably
We don't want to
10
couch it at
minutes
the end and they'll be
before-
like, that was a weird guy.
Yeah. So share a little bit about what you're doing with Impact and kind of this stage of life you're in. And then I'd like actually to share how people can get in touch with you to participate.
Yeah, absolutely. So I work with a campus ministry organization, Impact Campus Ministries. I get the wonderful privilege of working in a odd little spot. Impact Campus Ministries is an on-campus, student-focused organization that believes that if you impact the university and university students, you impact the entire world. And they believe that the impact is God's impact, and our job is to just be there for students and study and pursue God with as much passion as we can muster, and show the students that, and teach them about how we're pursuing God and help them replicate that. And then God will have an impact on the entire world because of it.
All right.
So I particularly am a part of the first fully online college campus called the Bema virtual campus, which is associated with our friend Marty's podcast. I have all these students all over the country who listen to the Bema podcast, who I think you've referenced before on the show
certainly
a couple of times.
Have name dropped Marty.
Yeah. Bunch of students all over the country who are a bunch of wallflowers, from incredible social anxiety to just go to a very tiny college with no connection. Have called in and wanted some help, wanted some connection, wanted to be a part of a community, college ministry community, and talk about Bema, talk about the text.
Awesome.
And that's what I do. I'm just shepherding and stewarding those students and ministering and supporting and caring for them. So
awesome. If someone wanted to found that to be interesting and wanted to learn more and maybe even how to partner with you, how could they do that?
I would reach out to me specifically through my impact email, which is andrew.miller@impacttheu.com.
And we'll have that in the show notes.
Yep. That's probably the best way to get a hold of me right now. I don't have socials up and running because literally we're talking on my second day of working with Impact. So I am developing all of that social impact. But maybe we'll have something by the time that you post.
Okay.
I'll have at least an Instagram handle or something.
We'll make sure to put all the links and all the ways to get connected with Andrew. And especially if at the end of this conversation you want to ask Andrew some more questions, that'll be a great way to reach out to him and continue this conversation that we're having today. And Andrew, we're talking about what today?
We're talking about atonement.
Atonement.
Which is crazy.
We're talking about atonement. And I want to preface this conversation with this. There are a lot of things that I feel like I could talk endlessly about. You want to talk about the Gospels, gospel formation, how they were written, why they were written, when they were written, to whom they were written, and the impact of those writings. Almost any New Testament subject, I feel pretty confident. Historically speaking, I tend to like the history of it a little bit more, and a lot of Genesis I could talk. But one thing that I feel like I've never really spent a lot of time thinking through, which maybe that's to my detriment. I don't know. I have a lot of questions, but is atonement theories. And I got to admit, so this is the premise, because I reached out to you and I said, hey, let's get on. We were always talking about doing something.
Yep.
And I said, hey, why don't we talk atonement theory? Okay. So here's why I thought this would be a fun conversation. One, it's not something I feel well versed in, so I don't have a whole lot of background to it. Enough to make me dangerous, I suppose, or heretical. Number two, I remember specifically we were in a religious space together. And you were wanting to dive into conversations about atonement theory, and the place that we were at didn't want to create space to continue those conversations. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Right.
Because they can be scary.
Yeah, it's tough, and a lot of times churches are like, I want to talk about something else, or we don't have time for this, or something like that. Whatever the reason, I don't know, because I wasn't part of the conversation, and we don't need to get into that. But what I remember from that was the feeling of, well, that sucks. That my friend wants to dive into deeper conversations about it, and the space we were in didn't have the capacity to offer that. And then what that did in your heart. And really, man, that's a lot of people's experience, where they hear something, they read something, they want to talk about it with their spiritual leader or the person that's mentoring in their lives, and that person doesn't have capacity, whether it's education, time, bandwidth, whatever, to support that journey. And that person's just left to go, I don't know what to do with that. And it's just a tragic, and a lot of times people will actually begin to walk away from spaces that don't support or don't have the capacity. I use the word capacity because I don't think it's like I think you're dumb for wanting to talk about that. I just don't think they have the capacity or the bandwidth or even the education maybe to walk down that road with people. All that to say, that's why I wanted to talk about atonement. Because I just wanted to come back to a moment in your life where you were doing reading, research, and wanted to have conversations. And and just that, what I felt in my heart for you in that
Yeah.
moment was like, well, damn, I'll have a conversation with you.
Yeah.
And so here we are.
Love it.
Here we are, atonement. I want to start off with the question: why is this question important for you? Why is this topic important to you?
Yeah, I think you talking about those moments, I don't know if I can even pinpoint that specifically, but I really do remember kind of being shut down for my curiosity and my excitement over new things fairly often in my experience. And I remember fairly early on learning from my parents that it was okay to move on to a space that would allow me to be a little bit more curious and allow me to be a little bit more creative in the things that I asked and the things that I studied. And so I think one of the things that I feel we are we don't really understand is that our atonement theory, like the way that we view how sin and salvation interact, dictates a lot of the goggles that we put on when we read the text, when we talk to other people, when we interpret the world around us in many ways. And so understanding that dynamic between what is sin, how sin works, how God's interaction with sin works, and we call that the atonement, I think is a foundational piece that a lot of people struggle to approach.
Okay.
And it might be purely because of just not having all of the pieces of the puzzle.
Okay. Can you, for those who are tuning in that they just don't have a history with the terminology, would you be able to give me a working definition of how would you define atonement?
Yeah, I think you can define atonement in the words of Paul. Probably the simplest thing is that we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God.
Okay. So
Right.
that's Romans 3:23.
Yeah, and I feel like that is something that is instilled in every Christian, every person who attends church.
Any Protestant evangelical for sure.
Yeah, any Protestant,
Yeah.
and I would say almost
Romans Road.
I think it's pretty difficult to be in any sort of church setting, even Catholic church settings, where and just from talking with Catholic friends of mine, which I could be misquoting, but everyone's heard of that, right? And so the all of sin and fall short, that creates a problem in a lot of our minds that we have fallen short. So how do we come back from that? How do we come back from falling short? So that would be like my simplest view on atonement.
Okay.
Right? Is like sin's a problem.
Okay.
We gotta deal with it.
Okay.
And how God deals with it
Is atonement.
Is atonement.
Okay. Okay. There's a verse you mentioned, Romans 3:23. For all have sinned, fallen short of the glory of God. I think is it 5:23? For the wages of sin is death, or is that 6? It might be 6 or 5. I don't know.
That's 6. I actually think I have it on my
Is it 6?
notes
Yeah.
here.
So for the wages of sin is death, the gift of God is eternal life, right?
Right.
So it's this idea of there is this problem that has caused a separation.
Right.
And looking at Isaiah 59, I feel like the writing in Isaiah kind of encapsulates a little bit of like where the separation comes from.
Okay.
So I want to read it to you and just maybe your thoughts on it. So this is Isaiah 59, verse 1. Look, the Lord's hand is not too weak to deliver you. His ear is not too deaf to hear you, but your sinful acts have alienated you from God. Your sins have caused him to reject you and not listen to your prayers. And I find like this Isaiah passage to kind of like, for me, like encapsulate, like there's this, because we go for the wages of sin is death. And it's like, okay, well, what does that mean? What does it mean to die? What does it mean that these wages, these things that I do or take on cause death? But the reality, like, and you're not wrong in that, in my, estimation, but I appreciated the Isaiah in the sense of something about the sins that have been done by Israel.
Right.
God's saying, I could do this. I'm not incapable of doing this, but something you've done is stopping me.
Right.
And so now we need something to restore that.
Right. Yeah, there's that in a lot of these spaces in the text you see that there is something that needs to be restored. And I feel like that's kind of like the the nail on the head. There is a brokenness, a separation, a destruction that happens when we sin that causes something that needs to be repaired and fixed. And I would say that I think the Isaiah verse really puts it that destructive action and nature that Israel's going through is causing them to be distant from God in some way.
Okay, so then atonement is a way that we talk about how that brokenness gets fixed.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah, in my opinion, at least.
Right. Okay. So, and I would agree. I would say, generally speaking, like atonement is the answer for how that separation gets reunited. Right. You get atone, like the breakdown of the word is at one meant.
Right.
Like you are mending, you're making one something
Right.
that has been broken and disrupted. And so that's what atonement does. And I think it might be shocking for some people to hear that there are different theories on how that actually works out.
Yeah, I feel like that was the watershed moment for me that really made atonement come to life as something I wanted to talk about.
So, okay, so I would say this, right? Let me play devil's advocate to go, someone that just grows up in the church, their answer would be, well, Jesus' death on the cross, that's what makes me right with God.
Yeah.
And I just need to accept his forgiveness, and now I'm made right with God. So it's like you got the two chasms, remember that?
Yeah.
In Sunday school. And what bridges the chasms? It's the cross.
Which
so
is
his death is what atones.
Yeah.
Reconciles
Basically, the cross
me.
is laid as the bridge over the
Exactly.
right?
That allows me to connect with God, right? So that's how a lot of people. So my guess is that for the general watcher that maybe is not into these conversations, never been introduced to these conversations, would just simply go, why is this even a conversation?
Yeah, I mean that's great. Except when I started talking with people outside of Christian evangelicalism, which is what I was born in, raised in, developed in, and still find incredible value in today. People outside of that sphere never even heard of that analogy. That's never something they even came across.
Are you talking about
like a Catholic or a
Eastern
Methodist,
Orthodox?
an Eastern Orthodox?
So you're saying they don't use that framework?
Yeah, and I have not met somebody who is non-evangelical and still loves Jesus, who that framework has been introduced to them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. And then I have limited experience, but
so like there's this reality of like I know for me, I remember when cracks started showing in my belief is like when I began to realize, oh, not everybody believes this.
yeah, that was me too.
So I became a Christian in the Pentecostal movement, the
Right.
Assemblies of God.
Same.
And so speaking in tongues was this like grand moment in the life of in this movement to differentiate you being filled with the Spirit or not, right? And so I remember the first time hearing like, oh, not everybody believes that.
Right. Yeah.
And actually the vast majority of Christians throughout time have never believed that.
Right.
And, you know, like, well, that's new. Okay. So you have this moment where you're going like, wait, you don't believe that?
Right.
Tell me how that like impacted you and how were you able to maintain because some people, when they hear things that break their understanding,
Right.
they move to an extreme of like, well, it's all garbage then.
Right. Yeah.
Right? How did you prevent that moment of like, well, now what do I believe and why should I believe any of it?
Yeah. I mean, I come from a long family tradition of people who like to test things, experiment with things, not accept the norm unless it's been we've interacted with it ourselves and done some manipulation of it. So when I would hear an idea at church, I would respond the way that my parents would respond to new things, which was never with like a panic reaction. It was always with a contemplative, okay, let's study this, let's interact with it. So
so you had a background that was at least kind and gracious towards new thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, based in curiosity, right? We as a family, we stay pretty curious, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So when I growing up, like you said, in the Pentecostal movement, there was no other visual, right, that was presented to me. So as a kid, I didn't really learn anything new.
Yeah, churches don't usually go, and some people think this, and some people think this, and this is why we think this, which would have been helpful.
Yeah, they're just teaching a pathway, right? Which is fine. It's totally acceptable to just teach along a pathway, right? Because you're asking people to teach children, right? And you want to make sure that you can replicate that. So children, and I had a pretty decent church, so there's a lot of folks that were just teaching us because they loved kids, not because they were theologians. So we wouldn't expect them, they shouldn't be expected to analyze every detail of the Sunday school lesson, right? Yeah. But I got that same picture, of the chasm and the cross was my default foundation, right? And what I found was later on in life, in college, I finally found some information and some conversation with Marty and a guy named Ray Vanderlaan that basically pointed out to me that no, there's more than one atonement theory, and the theory of atonement is actually a very strong Christian tradition throughout history.
As in, people have been wrestling with this conversation since the beginning.
What
is the thing? What about Jesus's death, resurrection?
What does it do?
How, in what way does that atone for the problem of sin in our lives that is causing the separation?
Right.
Okay. So, no, I appreciate all of that. I'd like to kind of get into this and identify some things. Can we just briefly go over a few of the theories? I don't think we need to dive into all of them.
Yeah, there's 8.
Okay.
So 7 or 8.
So let's talk about, if you could, for the audience, talk about maybe the top 2 or 3.
Okay, top 3, and one that I think is really important for this conversation is the first one is recapitulation. Okay. So
and what does that mean for the dummy in the room?
Yeah.
Which is me, because I'm the only other guy in the room.
So the recapitulation is the first idea that was brought forth as how is this process work? Okay. And recapitulation is the idea that the thing that went wrong is in our flesh and bones, and Jesus living the same life that we did, the same existence, he, by embodying that, and by embodying weakness, by embodying the human flesh and living our life, he redeems, even through death, he redeems all of the human experience. So therefore taking the human experience from a bad thing or a broken thing and making it a healed, whole existence. So then we are able to interact with God as his children.
Okay, so let's try an exercise.
Okay.
Give me the most a compelling thought as to why that works, and then a compelling thought as to why maybe it doesn't work. Defend it and then go, this is why maybe it doesn't.
Yeah, my defense,
and be generous to both.
Yeah, and this starts with a theologian named Irenaeus. I know that you love church fathers, so I wanted to know which church father this era of thought was coming to fruition. I would say that the benefit or the idea of recapitulation is that it solidifies all of our humanness as valuable, beautiful, and worthy. Right? So as a human being, we are worthy because Christ lived the same life we did. And so therefore we are good and holy.
Okay. Tell me why maybe it doesn't work so much.
Mostly because it separates out spirit from flesh and flesh from our humanness. So it says that the flesh is something, our this physical body, right, is something different altogether than who we are as a human being.
Okay.
And that's going to kind of be a theme.
Right. Right. Because that's like when you're talking about like the dualism of flesh and spirit, you can quickly move into Gnostic thinking.
Right. And that they're a big
Okay.
problem. Gnostics are a big problem.
Okay.
Well, maybe we'll circle back.
Okay, cool. All right. Give me number 2.
Yeah, the number
Top 3.
Yeah,
So we have,
number 2. We'll go top 3 in order of like impact on myself. Right?
Love it.
So
That's fair.
recapitulation is like the newest. That's impacting me like new right now in this era. But the second one would be Christus Victor. And that one, if you ever watched Chronicles of Narnia, shout out C.S. Lewis, our boy.
I love how you said, did you just say watch?
Yeah.
For all the like nerds in the room are like, how dare you
Well,
with their
that's fair.
books?
That's fair.
Your wife is rolling her eyes
I guess
right now.
that's true because she's a massive reader.
Yeah.
No, like I guess my brain goes watch because it's like the most recent version is the movies, right?
But I'm down with the watch because that's my vibe.
Read it.
So.
I mean.
Okay. Christus Victor, tell me more.
Yeah. So Christus Victor is Aslan. Like it's Aslan's story, right?
Okay.
The innocent Jesus is sacrificed to protect, to be the guardian, the shield between evil and humanity, and is sacrificed, and in that perfect sacrifice, restores the world.
Okay.
Defeats evil and restores the world.
Tell me why that's worth believing, and tell me why maybe what it lacks.
I think the simple it's worth thinking about and worth absorbing and holding close because it in its simplicity, it's very true in that Christ's existence and love and sacrifice does defeat evil in our lives, meaning that like with him, in relationship with him, evil is defeated, right? And so like his sacrifice, the action of his sacrifice is going to defeat evil in our lives, and in whatever way. Right? What I'm trying not to do is trying not to say like this is the definitive answer,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
But because we're still talking about the topic, but yeah,
Okay.
it
Okay,
definitely
so that's why
does defeat evil.
Okay, and so what does it lack then as a theory?
What it lacks,
in your opinion?
Yeah, in my opinion, what it lacks is, I think it puts evil, and particularly like a demonic devil figure. I think it puts too much power in the hands of that realm of the world, whereas our God is the most powerful. It's his power as the creator of all things puts him so far above any evil that putting him down in that space almost weakens him to a degree that is laughable.
Interesting.
My opinion.
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. Okay. Give me one more. This is the doozy, right?
Yes,
this is one
this is the doozy.
everyone's going to be most familiar with.
Yeah, everyone's extremely familiar with what's called penal substitutionary atonement, right? Which is at its forefront takes that wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life. Takes that idea and really runs with it in a very legal sense.
Okay.
So it makes it a law.
Okay.
So the cost of sinning causes you to die. So you're gonna die.
Okay.
You're basically a walking dead man.
Okay.
And the sacrifice of Christ creates a barrier between death and you, right? I'm trying to think of like my Sunday school answers with the colors, right?
Yeah.
And that washes you white as snow, and now evil and sin and death can't even find you anymore.
Okay.
I'm trying to I was trying to say it really specifically, but it's that in a lot of ways, right?
Okay.
Whereas in a lot of the other atonement theories, penal substitutionary atonement is very, very structured. It's very, very clear. A equals B equals C equals D.
Okay.
Finished, right? It's very linear and organized and structured.
Okay. So what's appealing about penal substitution?
I struggle very mightily with this one.
I know, that's why I'm asking.
Right?
I
hard
led
one.
with what's good and what's bad, because I think really smart people for a lot of years have argued for it.
Right.
So what's redeeming about this?
Yeah, I will try to do my best.
Because I think most of the audience that are probably listening to this are going like, isn't that the one?
Yeah. I will try to do my best to represent it in good faith.
Represent it well.
So I think penal substitutionary atonement speaks to a Western thinker, people from a Greek tradition. So think of Greece and Rome and how we have kind of come out of that world, right?
We still hold those things.
Yeah. And what it does is it provides a very, very structured, clear line to how Jesus loves me. And I think that's laudable, meaning I want to know how Jesus loves me. Jesus loves me because he paid my penalty, right? I incurred a debt by my poor, crappy actions, right?
Yeah, so it's Jesus loved me so much that while we were yet sinners, Christ died for us.
Christ died for us, yes. Exactly, right? And penal substitutionary atonement says that, A, you're a sinner. B, God loves you. D, God needs to do something about your sin, and it has separated you from me. At least that's the popular way of thinking about it, right? That your sin has separated you from God, and I sent my son to die so that separation no longer exists.
Okay. I think we could probably spend some time on why you think it doesn't work, and I don't want to dovetail just yet into that.
Okay, sounds good.
So I'll hold that. I'll hold that second part, because I think of all the theories, that's the one that you would want to deconstruct the most.
The most, yeah.
Okay, so it's fair to say you probably have some opinions on why that one's not something worth putting all your eggs in that basket.
Correct.
Okay, so we started by saying there were what, 8?
Yeah, there's 8.
8?
Yeah, and you could make an argument for more than that.
Okay. So we just did 3.
Yeah.
And there are more than that. Yeah. And if you're like, well, I'm curious about what those are, Google it, I guess. Right?
Yeah, Wiki's got a decent article on 5 of them.
Yeah.
You got to dig a little further to find something more.
And real quick, because again, before we get into some nitty gritty stuff, if someone wanted to read more, do you have a direction you would point them that you feel, because it's one thing to just go on Google and you're left to the wild of whoever's optimized their article for the best result wins. Google's a game.
Yeah.
It's not a free market.
Right.
Just FYI.
And one of the things we're learning about Google is that it definitely cultivates each individual user's experience. Yeah. So the more I Google stuff on atonement, the more I get varied responses, right? So I'm going to go study atonement, and I'm going to find resources that are varied and broad.
Do you have a source that you might say, if you're wanting to learn more, this is where you might want to start looking?
Yeah, I'm a very auditorial learner. Words. And I think my favorite place to really learn about some of this is Bible Project has some really solid stuff. The Bema podcast, I'm always going to rep that. Their stuff, Marty's stuff on atonement's really solid. But I would honestly, if I were to lean on anyone, it'd be N.T. Wright. N.T. Wright's such a solid. I mean, I know how much you love him, and I love him.
I mean, right. I've got
shelf, right?
His books.
But N.T. Wright, especially his podcast, because once again, I'm a listener. Reading is definitely something I can do, but I listen much better than I read. He's got some great stuff on atonement.
Okay. So when you're Googling atonement theory, the best practice is to put a qualifier.
Yeah.
Bible Project, N.T. Wright, Bema, Marty Solomon.
Yep.
Those kinds of things will help source.
I would say you're going to get a very more broader set of information.
Okay. Yeah.
Right? And I'll probably reference Bible Project again specifically to a specific episode later.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So this is the setup. That was a long setup, guys.
Sorry.
No. And FYI, this is going to be a multi-part because we have zero capacity to be short with our words.
That's so true.
We'll
do our best.
We'll just talk forever. Okay. So buckle in. Okay. We need to kind of like, in my brain, help those who are listening to get through this.
Right.
So, we presented a working definition of atonement, that there is something broken in a relationship with God or a potential relationship with God. How does God fix that?
Right.
Introduce atonement.
Right.
Making it one.
Right.
Okay. So then the church goes, okay, so how does that work?
Right.
And one thought I have is, why are there so many?
Yeah.
Because
that's really good question.
Because if God wanted this to be clear,
right.
Why are there 8, maybe more?
Right.
Why are there even 3?
Yeah.
Now some would say, "Oh, Joe, it is very clear this." And I just need to say, like, one thing I do on this channel is we talk about like having intellectual humility.
Sure. Yeah.
To go like, we go, "Oh, it's just this."
Right.
At the expense of some really smart dudes and women that have argued differently than us for generations. And so it's like for us to act with certainty on a specific theory. Now we can go, for now, this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm fine with statements like that. But to then lead with like this is what it is, I just go, that's a little too certain for my taste. Because all of the theories have Bible verses to back them up. Do they not?
There's textually it's very much there. And I think there's an argument to be made that if you just read the book of Hebrews, like 7 out of 8 are there, 6 out of 8 of them are just in the book of Hebrews.
Which makes me go, and this is what makes me mad. Not mad, but like it drives me crazy.
Yeah.
Right? How let's just I believe you and I agree, but let's presume you're true that the writing of Hebrews presents a multifaceted atonement theory, right? It's not just recapitulation. It's not just Christus Victor. It's not just atonement or
penal substitution. PSA for short. PSA. If we want a short.
It's not, and an argument could be made that somehow those are represented throughout the text, right?
And they are.
So then, why is there even an argument? Like, what? Why would anyone be able to go like, there's one?
Yeah.
This is a tension I have, and this is maybe why I've not given much thought to this through my theological training. Is like, I'm going like, nobody knows.
Yeah.
Like the text is all over the map
with it.
And so like, why are we trying to break it down into these little pieces?
Granulize it almost, like, you know what I mean?
And I know that there are people that are probably watching that are going like, why should I even care?
Right.
So we are going to get into the nerd, but I actually want to address that because I think that's a real core element of like, dude, seems crazy. Why are we even talking about this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Why does this matter to you?
Yeah, I think this opens up the door to kind of like the thing that started my desire to learn about this is actually asking the question, what is sin? And I feel like we shy away from that. It's like because sin seems to be such a simple idea, we just accept what sin is wholesale, and we don't ever dig into the nitty gritty of what is sin.
I think that's a great segue, Andrew, and for this reason. One, we've been talking a long time already. 2, it gives us one thing to focus on.
Right.
if we can. I don't know that we can.
We'll do our best.
We'll do our best. Because at the core, you don't need atonement if there isn't something breaking a relationship.
If there's nothing to atone for, there's no reason for atonement. Yeah.
So the whole conversation of atonement is predicated on the reality or the belief that we are separated from God.
Right.
And what separates us from God
Right.
is this word that we call sin.
Right.
And so for us to understand what makes us whole or one with God, atoned with God, or how God chooses to atone us to him, we got to understand what sin is and how that separates us. Is that a fair setup?
Absolutely. I think it's a fantastic setup.
Okay. So we're gonna dive into sin and we're gonna expose that, and then we're gonna come back in a part 2, which will be a different video.
Okay.
Where then we come back to atonement and go like, now with this reality of sin in our heads, how can we think better about atonement?
Yep.
Is that fair?
I think it's fair.
Is that fair? Is that fair, audience? I hope that's fair. I hope you're still with us. If not, that's okay, because I'm talking to my best friend. So. There's no better night than this.
No, right. We're having a great time.
Yeah, we would do this normally.
Right.
Okay. Sin. What is sin?
Yeah. So when you look at the Hebrew and it talks about sin, and you look at the Jewish sages and what they talk about sin, and you just look at like sin over time, and you know, I'm hoping that by saying this, you go out and study it and say Andrew's crazy or not. But sin is missing the mark. We have a pretty decent evaluation of what sin is from Paul, where he says it's like the analogy, the image is just an archer or a spear thrower or somebody is aiming at a target, right? And they loose the arrow and it doesn't strike true center, right? You miss the mark, right? So the Hebrew sages, the Jewish sages, they would akin that into taking an action that causes chaos, right? Not any sort of you did something bad and now it's stuck on you forever and you have to scrape it off. It's the way that they explain it is it is an action that causes chaos.
Okay. So I love that as a working definition. I made a video on what is sin a couple months back.
Yeah, brilliant. Listen to the whole thing.
I talk a little bit about the dehumanization. Mm-hmm. So like I think what you're getting at is this idea that we in the West try to itemize sin.
We itemize
so
it.
that we can develop practices to resist it.
Right, exactly.
Right? Sin is doing this thing.
Right.
To not sin,
right.
I need to develop something that will help me not do that
Which
thing.
is really interesting because in the Jewish mind, that's kind of insane. That's like an insane way of thinking, which is because, you know, the ancient Jewish sages are just way different than us because, you know, number one, they're writing 2,000 to 4,000 years ago, right? And they're from a different culture, right? But what they would say is that in order to not sin, you just don't sin. You take the action that is peaceful, not chaotic. Right? So if you do something chaotic, you make up for that by doing things that help the community feel connected and loved. But you also, the next time that thing comes up, you just don't take that action. You choose an action that is more kind, loving, caring for the community or for yourself or for somebody else.
Okay. So this is mapping on to me. I'm like getting excited. Okay. This is mapping on in this way that we treat, so here's a thought I'm having right now.
Right.
Based off of that idea.
Right.
That we have treated sin like the ascetics did, the monks did in asceticism,
Asceticism, I believe,
right?
is the way you say
Where
it.
it's like denial,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
And so it's like, oh, I need to stop doing this thing that is itemized as sin.
Correct.
And so I got to deny myself. And the piece that we're missing,
Yeah.
what you're saying, is that that's not enough
Yeah.
because you will fail and crumble under
Yeah.
the pressure of my own strength to resist.
Right.
The question is, what am I choosing in replacement
Right.
of it?
Yep.
And so here's the thought. I go to Genesis, and I know we won't probably want to talk about Genesis, but I go to Genesis and I go to this idea that might be unfamiliar to some people, but that the taming, like that God tames the chaos monster of the
Yes.
tohu vavohu.
Okay.
The watery deep is this
Yep.
like Tiamat
Right.
chaos dragon.
Yeah, the image is taming
chaos.
the chaos. Yeah.
And what God does in creation is tames the chaos by bringing order, and structure, and shalom, peace.
Yeah. He doesn't order the world by saying, okay, here's a long list of things you should not do. Because the list of things you should not do is so far, could be extensive.
Yeah. Yeah. He just enters in by going, okay, let there be.
Yeah.
Let there be. He brings order. He brings structure out of the tohu vavohu.
Right.
And so I find this idea of like how we talk about sin.
Yep.
We need to develop new language.
We're so obsessed with sin. We're so obsessed with how it works, how it functions, what it does, right?
Because Paul talks a lot about it.
Yeah.
For the wages of sin
is death.
Is death, right?
Yeah.
For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God.
It's interesting that you say that Paul is all about it, because
well, on the surface, he seems to be.
Well, yeah, but the question is like, have you read all of his works with the intention of counting how many times he talks about sin versus how many times he talks about treating each other well and how many times he talks about making the right action?
Sure.
And if you were to just put those side by side, you would have an extensive list of how to be good and kind and loving and supportive to one another, and a very small list of the times he'd mentioned sin.
Okay. So you're saying that we have over prioritized
It's a great
the point.
It's much nicer than I would say it.
And that we have misattributed to Paul a over emphasized sin focus.
Yeah.
Right. When actually he's writing to move people towards a goodness, a tov,
absolutely a tov.
Mindset. A tov mindset.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's writing specifically to specific groups.
Yeah.
Never forget that these are letters to specific groups of people, and he's writing specifically to them to say, here's the way that you can cultivate tov in your community. Right. And here's some things to watch out for. But the list of what to do is much better, much bigger and better than the list of what not to do.
So you're arguing that like the concept of sin in the Bible is unavoidable. It's there.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
You're going to make a mistake.
The word's there. And the way that the biblical authors imagined the understanding of it was that the tension of it's a tension of tov and ra.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
Like ra is the Hebrew word for bad. or
Yep.
sometimes translated evil, which
Evil.
I think is too strong of a word.
Yep.
But good, tov, good,
Do good.
ra, bad.
Do good.
Right? And that we're to be people of tov, not ra.
That the hyper focus should be on doing the good, doing the tov.
Yeah.
Doing the tov. I can tell you by trade, like this is one of my favorite things to talk about, is like by trade before I went into Impact, right? Because I said I've only done this for I've only been doing this for 2 days. Before I went to Impact, I'm a board certified behavior analyst, which means I'm an expert in understanding how human beings learn.
Okay.
Right. And I teach I taught the most difficult people on the planet how to do and learn things.
Okay.
Right. And categorically in my science, it is super, super clear that the best way for human beings to learn is to tell them what to do and reward them for doing it. And then pick the next skill and reinforce that, and pick the next skill and reinforce that. And then you end up creating accidentally You end up creating these complex, detailed, web-like skills that all of a sudden let that person blossom and grow beyond your ability to even teach them. Wow. It's like literally watching a flower in bloom, but it's a human being. Yeah. And you can absolutely focus on what they did wrong and punish that, but that comes with a host of painful, traumatic things that could happen. And I can tell you that seeing 200 kids over my career of 11 years, I only did punishment with 3 of them to make sure that they were safe, to make sure that they didn't get hurt.
And like punishment, you mean?
Meaning like
for those that are watching, are like, what are
meaning
you
like
doing to those kids?
meaning like punishment, meaning saying like don't do that,
Okay.
and
leading with negative.
don't do that, and you lost the toy because of it.
Interesting. There are a lot of people that would be like, spoil the rod and spoil
Right.
children or whatever. Like
Right, but
punishment.
Just
Okay, we're not getting into
no,
focus on the
yeah,
family.
but seriously, like it's just it. Literally, I just did science,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so when I started studying sin, with all this information about how reinforcement and positive things and good things added to the world, to these kids' worlds, and I started seeing this conversation between sin, I saw what you brought up, which is that we are hyper focused, hyper fixated on sin in our Christian culture, right? And that is so dangerous because you only go to dark places. When you try to avoid thinking about something, how many of you have like tried to avoid thinking about something? Yeah. Are you able to actually do that if you just focus on not thinking about it? Or do you just constantly think about it? Yeah. Right? Like that's a problem, right? But you can talk to any psychologist. The way to actually fix that is to think about the appropriate opposite thing. Right? So let's say like you're kind of clumsy like me and you focus on not being clumsy, you're going to be clumsy.
Okay.
But if you focus on being careful because you don't want to step on like my new puppy who's 12 weeks old, I don't want to step on Pip, so I'm going to be very careful about stepping on Pippin. And so I'm focusing on, I'm going to be careful for Pippin's sake.
Okay.
Right? Then I'm going to actually step very carefully. Okay. And I don't realize that I'm actually stepping carefully. But if I try to not step on Pip, if I try to not be clumsy, I will be clumsy.
Okay. So when it comes to sin and this conversation of like the focusing on tov and not raw, so we're and I hope this isn't like too much.
We're not getting, it feels like we might be getting far afield. I promise you we're not.
Yeah. Okay. So how is this conversation then, if we were to rethink of sin in a new lens?
Yeah.
What does that mean for then the concept of atonement?
Yeah. Okay. So let's think about it this way. I'll do a ridiculous example, and then if you want a non-ridiculous example, we'll come up with one. So let's say you disagree with something I say, and I just slap your face.
Yeah.
Right?
That'd suck.
That would suck, right? And everyone would say that is a sin.
Okay.
I just harmed you for no reason. That's awful. In Paul's mind, I missed the mark. Okay. Right? I should not slap you for disagreeing with me.
Okay.
Right? So let's ask the question, the wages of sin is death.
Okay.
So my sin of slapping you is death.
Okay.
Right? Does that mean I slapped you, therefore I'm going to die? Or does that mean I slapped you and it is going to cause death in our relationship?
Okay, so you're not talking about physical, which I don't think Paul is, but like...
And I'm not talking about eternal death either. That does play into it. Okay. But it causes you said tov and ra. It causes ra within our relationship. It causes chaos within our relationship. You're gonna struggle to like disagree with me in the future.
Trust you as a friend.
Trust me as a friend. We're not gonna have strong conversations any longer, right? Yeah. It's going to take time, right? The fix for that is me taking Tov-like actions on your behalf to then repair that relationship so that you can now trust me again to be careful with your disagreements.
Okay.
Right?
So the atoning action to restore relationship is the Tov actions, it's good actions that
doing good things
are
right.
It brought about in our relationship to bring back the atoning action.
Right.
is good.
Yeah, and if I were to go to a Jewish rabbi and talk about the situation, right? I would say, Rabbi, what do I do next time? He would not tell me to not slap you. He would tell me to be kind and loving to your friends at all points, no matter how your emotions feel. So every time you feel an emotion, every time you feel strongly about a disagreement, think about how much you love your friend.
Okay.
That's what he would focus on. What is the action that I can do to do better? And he would just say, then you're not doing the bad thing. You're no longer doing the harmful thing. And that's what I believe. Hear me. That's what I believe. When Paul says missing the mark, that's what he means. He means that you didn't hit the target correctly. That does not mean you should focus on the fact that you didn't hit the target correctly. You should focus on the next shot and hitting the target on the next shot. Okay. Sin, with that analogy, sin should be something that happens and you literally move on and try to do better. That's sin.
Okay. So to try to land this conversation, this part one conversation, and to maybe set up the part two, because I still think there's so much I want to get into about the different theories.
Yeah.
And okay, so we're setting up a framework of thinking differently about sin, because the argument is, again, sin, biblical, the word sin, whatever we want to define that, is a thing.
It's a thing
that causes separation from the holy God that loves us.
I would say, sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I would say it's not a thing.
Okay.
It's an action that you take.
Okay. It's an action that we take that causes, I think of Israel. Israel is worshiping foreign gods.
Yes, great example.
They're doing all the things, right? And that is an action they're taking that's breaking relationship with their covenant realities.
Yep.
And that causes a separation between them and God. And God removes his covenantal blessing and sends them into exile. Okay. Doesn't remove his covenantal blessing.
Let me go into that, because I think that's actually a really great example that will actually clarify the point. Okay. Right? So Israel worships another god. What we know from history is that when Israel chooses to worship another god, the one that they most commonly go to is Baal.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And
That's
Baal,
the Canaanite
god. And Baal, we know from archaeological evidence, is a child sacrifice deity. Yep. Right? In order to appease him.
Approves the act of child sacrifice.
In order for him to not be mad at you, you have to give him a child to be burned and killed. Okay? So willful child sacrifice, right? So the wages, the cost of choosing to follow another god other than Yahweh, especially if that god is Baal, is what? What's the cost of that?
Your child.
Death. It's death in the most brilliantly obvious terms.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
How do the Israelites not do that?
By choosing to worship Yahweh?
They just worship Yahweh alone. Don't pick any other gods. Just worship Yahweh alone, whose burden is easy and light.
Yeah.
Right? So literally that's the encapsulation of sin. What do you do to not worship Baal? Worship Yahweh only. Literally that's how the ancient sages, that's how the rabbis, that's how the Hebrew mind thinks about sin. Is you just don't do it.
You choose Yahweh.
You just choose. You just choose
how do I get away from worshiping Baal? Choose Yahweh.
Just worship Yahweh only. Don't worship Baal.
Yeah.
That's easy.
Yeah. I guess for me, I hear what you're saying, and intellectually, I'm like, man, that sounds so good. Emotionally, I go, that seems like for a lot of people that struggle with addiction and struggle with real. And I'm not just talking about you slapped your friend. Nobody's doing that. But I'm talking about they're choosing porn. They're choosing to lie and break relationship with their spouses, and they're choosing things, or they
have a real legitimate addiction.
They're going oh, you're just telling me to choose something else. Oh, thanks, dude. That's real helpful.
I would suggest if you to answer that question, right, and to answer that concern, if you know somebody who's in a 12-step program or any version of that, ask them this question. You will have a wonderful conversation. I've actually done a bunch of conversations lately and met a bunch of people in recovery for life or AA or whatever, right? And I've like seriously sat at the feet of their wisdom. And one thing I've seen that's the common pattern is each one of those programs is not about what you did wrong. It's about the actions that you take to do better. And the first few steps are these steps of restoration. They restore what's been killed. They restore from death. They resurrect these things by reaching out to the people that they harmed and say, I am truly sorry. I am taking actions to be better. And then they continue to take action after action after action. Each step is an action to make a solid choice that brings peace and restoration to their families, their communities, themselves. Okay. And you continue to make those steps throughout the rest of your life. Nowhere in that program does it say focus on the thing that you did wrong. It does say admit the thing you did wrong. Okay. And then take your next step.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that.
Highly actionable.
Okay, I appreciate that. Let me circle the wagons here. I think there might be, and again, I'm playing devil's advocate, there might be a lot of people that are hearing this and they go, well, that sounds very humanistic. I just have to choose good to restore my relationship with God.
Yep.
And atonement theory is like the whole theory is based around like what is it about what Jesus did that makes us right with God?
Which is so.
And we've been talking about the things I can choose to do.
Yep.
Just choose good.
Yep.
And it's like, well, then where does Jesus fit in this? Because that's the whole idea of atonement theory.
That's so fantastic because everyone's going to hate me for this, but the way I'm going to answer that question is by not talking about Jesus yet. I am going to talk about Cain and Abel.
Okay.
So, Cain and Abel.
Okay, so we're talking Genesis 4.
Genesis 4.
Yep.
Right.
Like the first half of Genesis 4,
just
1 through 15.
2 second
like
flyby, right? God creates the world, creates man, puts them in the world, right? Creates opportunity for access to everything, but one thing's off limits. The human beings choose to do the one thing that's off limits, right?
And eat from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Yep.
God says you are now cursed because of that, right?
I don't think he curses them, but
okay, which is I would agree, but
he curses the land, he curses the snake, and then he shares the results of their actions.
New episode of Whisking in the Writings, reviewing that later.
Sorry, I can't let that one
go.
You're
fine. But I mean, I said that on purpose because I feel like that's the common perception.
That's how people think of it. Yes.
Right. So the curses happen, right?
Okay.
And then what happens next? So if we were to believe penal substitutionary atonement, everyone in the story so far has sinned. Therefore, God should be separated.
God should, and Genesis 3 ends with them being banished from his presence.
Correct.
The angels or the seraphim, I think, are guarding the entry. They're not allowed back into the garden, which might be sanctuary, temple language. Yep.
I challenge anyone who agrees with what you just said to go read the story through Genesis 4.
Yeah.
Because what you will find is we are not cut off from God's presence.
Why is God showing up?
We are simply just cut off from the tree of knowledge of good and evil.
100%. Because I agree 100%. Like you read Genesis 4 and you go, I mean, immediately you have to ask the question.
Right.
Why is God talking to them?
Why is God not just talking to them? But the context, especially in the Hebrew, is God's conversation with Cain. God is right. God is this close.
Yes.
Cain. He is like whispering in his ear with his arm over his shoulder,
he's
saying,
like, "Don't you know?
Saying
if you just do the right thing, dude." That's
what he's talking about. Notice how he's not talking about the sin. He's he's not saying if you just choose to not brain your brother and murder him, everything will be good. No, he's saying if you make a choice to just believe that I love you, everything will go well.
And he presents like, because the other choice is standing at the
Right.
door and it wants to devour you,
but that's the
you
thing.
can choose good.
That's the thing. If we are separated from God, this story makes zero sense. It does not make sense.
I mean, like I have a whole theory. There's a whole other video, but like it's like you go, why are they even how do they learn?
Oh yeah, I mean,
they even need to sacrifice.
Let's
something?
literally repeat that one because you and I love that conversation, and I don't want to go into that. But it's so brilliant.
Yeah, the whole story is brilliant.
So brilliant.
So this idea of how, I think this is what I think you're getting at, and I think we have to land the plane at some point.
We're gonna try.
How sin separates us,
right,
is a different question than does sin separate us?
Right, absolutely. And I think it's super, 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 super clear in Genesis 1-4 that sin does not separate us from God.
Oh my gosh.
And I believe that lines up with the text. Nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. So anybody who shows you, and this is, okay,
but all
this is me.
Text,
this is me. Not
they're going like, look what the Bible says.
Right. But the Bible does say. The Bible says nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. It doesn't say nothing except for sin. It says nothing can separate us from the love of Christ. So there is no separation from God. So when you look at that, picture,
my mind is trying to catalog the verses that I debate.
When you look at that image that we were taught as children, right?
Yeah. No,
where there's
I know
a chasm between you and God,
yeah.
that doesn't exist. Maybe there's a chasm, but you're on the same side as Jesus. You're standing there holding his feet at the cross. You have always been there. You have pre-cross. You were always good. You were always valuable. You were always loved. You were always important. And that, maybe this is the bumper for the end, and that is from the very beginning. You are good. You are not separated. There is nothing to be atoned for related to your innate evil. You are not evil. You are made good.
Okay. I think this is a good place to pause and prepare ourselves for a part two where we can talk about a little bit more about this, because I think there's a lot of tradition here. There's Augustinian points of views about the depravity of man.
And I'm hammering on a lot of stuff. And
there are verses in the Bible that I'm sure people, if you're watching, if you've made it this far, that you're going, but what about? But
what about? What about?
Please direct those questions to Andrew at his email.
Get them in the comments. Get in the comments.
Get in the comments.
I would love to. I'll chat with you in the comments.
Okay, we'll chat with you in the comments. I'm sure there's more, but also there will be a part two where more of this will come. Dude, thank you.
It was so fun.
Thank you. I feel like this was 5 minutes.
I know,
I'm
right?
Sure, we've gone over an hour.
Sure, we're just flying.
I have no idea. What time is it?
It is 7:50.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
we started pretty quick.
Oh my gosh. This is going to be okay. Hey, everybody, thank you for watching. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. I just want to say thank you to Andrew for being on this episode. And I just love this stuff, and I hope you do too.
Me too.
And I hope it just sparked new thoughts and ideas for you to wrestle with, ask questions about, and to investigate more with curiosity and wonder, and because our God is big and He is good. So,
and you are loved and valued.
You are loved and valued. Yeah, yeah. So thank you for watching another episode of Whiskey in the Writings. We'll catch you next time. Hey, cheers.